Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shante Shante Shante. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Paramananda Madhavam. Okay, so we are at a very, very important part of Bhagavad Gita, Sthitaprajna Lakshana. Before we get started, what we will do for the next series of classes that we have at 6:20, we will chant Sthitaprajna Lakshana. So today we have played the recording, but if anyone's interested in chanting, please do, as long as you know how to chant it. And you can reach out to Kishanji if you were interested in chanting Sthitaprajna Lakshana from 6:20 to 6:30. Okay? All right. Now, let's go ahead and we'll chant the verses from 54. We will chant from 54 until what we have covered. So 54 to 56. So let's go ahead. Arjuna uvacha stita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stita dih kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Parthamanogatan Atman Yevatmana Tushtaha Sthita Prajnasta Dochyate Dukkheshu Anudvigna Manaha Sukheshu Vigataspraha Vitaraghavaya Krodhaha Sthitadhir Muniruchyate. Okay, so Arjuna asks this question about a Sthitaprajna. Sthitaprajna se ka bhasha. How do we describe this Sthitaprajna? Sthita, steady. Prajna, wisdom. This being of steady wisdom is called Sthitaprajna. The person who has steady wisdom. How is this person described? Ka bhasha. And how is this kim prabhasheta? How does this person speak? Kimasita. How does this person sit? Vrajeta kim. How does this person interact in this world or roam about in this world? So the description we are seeing from verses 55 to 72, that makes up Sthitaprajna Lakshana, those 18 verses. How does this Sthitaprajna sit? This is verse. How does a Sthitaprajna speak? Verses 56 to 57. How does a Sthitaprajna sit? Verses 58 to 63. How does a Sthitaprajna roam about in the world? Verses 64 to 71. Now, what happens in verse 55 then? In verse 55, it talks about why the Sthitaprajna is a Sthitaprajna. Why the Sthitaprajna is a Sthitaprajna is because they are desireless, as we saw. They are desireless, and that desirelessness is arising out of contentment in the self. They are desireless. Does that mean they don't have any desires? No. It just means that their desires do not arise from ignorance or incompleteness. Their desires do not rise from that. Their desires are out of their own fulfillment. But what kind of desires would arise for Sthitaprajna? So last week we had seen their icha, their own desire, other people's desire, or Guru and Bhagwan's desire. These things will rise for them. What do you mean? I mean, somebody asked, we are told to get rid of our vasanas, to overcome our vasanas. But you're saying a Sthitaprajna acts out of their vasanas. Yes, that's because their vasanas are what we call Shubha or divine or sattvic predominant vasanas. Our vasanas are rajasic and tamasic. So in our scriptures, when they say overcome vasanas, you should overcome them, they mean these rajasic and tamasic vasanas, which will harm us and take us away from achieving our goal. But for a Sthitaprajna, they have Shubha vasanas, or what you call sattvic predominant vasanas. So therefore, sometimes out of that, some desire happens. Very natural. Like they desire to eat a certain kind of food, or the desire to be in a certain kind of place in nature. That's very natural. They will have that. You will even see our great Mahatmas. Some of them prefer to be in the mountains. Some of them prefer to be in society. Some of them prefer to stay by the banks of a river. So you cannot say that they do not have vasana. They do, but it's not a troubling one. And it's certainly not vasanas like you and I have. Or sometimes desires would come to them, which is Guru's agnya, the Guru's desire, they have to fulfill, or they want to fulfill actually. And Bhagwan's desires also will come and work through them. Or sometimes people's desires. People desire the Sthitaprajna to do something. So, okay, they do it. Our great Mahatmas, some people wanted, to invite the Mahatma to their house, or for the Mahatma to do a certain talk, or for the Mahatma to sing a certain song. These things other people would ask. We see in the lives of great Mahatmas. Can they just do it? So this is what it means, that desires are there, but it's not arising out of ignorance or out of the sense of incompleteness. It's these kinds of desires based on their own or God's wishes, Guru's agnya or Guru's command, and it's not a big deal for them. They're not seeking to complete themselves because they're already complete. And they have absolutely no desire for the world. Of that, there is absolutely none. There is no desire for the world to be completed by the world. That does not exist in a Sthitaprajna. Okay? So that's the root of a Sthitaprajna. That's what makes a Sthitaprajna. If somebody's still running after the world because they think they'll be happy from it, that's definitely not Sthitaprajna. Now, we saw last week, how does the Sthitaprajna speak? And we saw first verse 56. Now, you might think in this verse, how is it explaining how a Sthitaprajna speaks? What it's really explaining is what is the speech prompted by. So when you say, Kim prabhasheta, it really means what is the speech prompted by? And we see in 56, the theme was equanimity. In sorrow, dukheshu anudvigna manaha, no disturbance. Sukheshu vigataspraha, in joy, no wanting more of it or wanting to prolong it. And vitaragha bhaya krodha, without any attachment, fear, or anger. This is a Sthitaprajna. Now, very interesting. If you look at the play of words, it's so beautiful. So first we see, why is it that in joy, they're not aiming to prolong it? Why? Vigata spraha. Why? Because they don't have attachment. Vitaraga. They don't have attachment. So when we are attached to something, what happens is, when it gives us joy, we want to prolong it, right? How many of us were like, we wish we had one more day of this Thanksgiving holiday. It's too soon to get back. Why is it already Monday? Because we have so much spraha, we have so much craving to prolong it, to make it longer. But this Sthitaprajna or this Jivan Mukta, it doesn't have that because they're not attached to it. So if it comes, it comes. If it goes, it goes. There's no issue. I don't need to prolong anything because my happiness is not there anyway. So why will I even think about prolonging it? There's no happiness there. So that raga goes with sukheshu vigata spraha. Then in sorrow, how come they're not disturbed? Because they have no fear and they have no anger. In sorrow, we get highly disturbed. Why? Because we're afraid. We're afraid when suffering comes to us. Why did this suffering come? When is it going to go? We want to just push it away. Why isn't it going? We feel so uncomfortable. Some of us in the current state of the pandemic, another variant, and we're like, wow, when is it going to go? It keeps coming. They have no such thing. Okay, it comes, it goes. No fear of it. And no anger. Because, so people who are in sorrow, what do they think? Who caused this? Who did this? It's these people's fault. It's those people's fault. So you'll see in different news articles or different conversations people have, these people shouldn't have done that, or those people shouldn't have done that. And it goes on and on and on and on. So much anger because they feel that somebody has caused that sorrow. But for Sthitaprajna, no anger. Why? There's a very deep understanding. Whatever has to happen will happen. Everybody will get the results of their karma, and there is absolutely no escape from that law. Everybody will get it. And together as a society, we have total karma, so we all have to go through it. But from the highest standpoint, the Sthitaprajna is untouched because Atma, the self, cannot be touched by any joy or by any sorrow. They're untouched. Sorrow will come, joy will come to everybody, even a person who is enlightened. But the difference is they will not become joyful or sorrowful, but we may. That's the difference. Okay, now continuing on, today we're going to see verse number 57. Yasarvatranadhisnehaha
Yes sarvatra nabhisneha
tat tat prapya shubhashubham
tat tat prapya shubhashubham
nabhinandati nadveshti
nabhinandati nadveshti
tasya prajna pratishtita.
tasya prajna pratishtita.
Yes sarvatra nabhisneha tat tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratishtita. Now, in 57, the underlying theme is non-attachment. So in 56, the underlying theme was equanimity. Here, non-attachment. Who is a Sthitaprajna? Yaha, the one who, sarvatra anabhisneha, the one who everywhere is without attachment. Anabhisneha means without attachment. Sarvatra, everywhere. Tat tat prapya, and that prapya, having obtained things, circumstances, beings, still without attachment. Na abhinandati, doesn't rejoice. Na dveshti, nor hates. Tasya prajna pratishtita, that person's wisdom is steady. So what is it? He who is everywhere without attachment, unbeating with anything good or bad. He who neither rejoices nor hates, his wisdom is fixed and steady. So one great quality is non-attachment. Now, when people hear this detachment, non-attachment, people feel like this person must be so dry, so sad and, so apathetic and insensitive. That is not so. Actually, a person who is detached is the person who can actually give you themselves completely, because they have no personal interest or personal motive. In these words, I love you, what comes first? I. I love you because you make me happy. But the minute you make me sad, I want a break. I want to be away from you. Isn't it? I love something. If it makes me happy, if it makes me sad, I don't want it anymore. This is the kind of relationship we have with the world. It is not love, it is attachment. I only want to be with something or with someone if it gives me happiness. Then I'm also very good and very calm and wonderful with it. But the minute it gives me sorrow, I don't want it anymore. So every relationship, what are we doing? We're in it for our happiness. That's the bottom line. Every single relationship we have, whether it's with a person, an experience, an object, we're in it for our own happiness. Now that's incredibly selfish, right? But that's the truth. And so if that person gives us sorrow, we don't want to be in it anymore. So do you call that love? No. A person who is wise, they have these relationships with people, with beings, with experiences, not because they're making them happy. They're already in bliss, but because they feel that, hey, maybe I can give something to this person. I can help this person. Let me see what I can do for this person. They are not there because they expect any happiness or they depend on anybody for any happiness. They are there because they're there to give. This is what you call detachment. It means I do not see you as a source of my happiness. Therefore, my relationship is not based on my happiness. My relationship is based on just creating love and peace and harmony with you. Now, isn't that beautiful? That is called detachment. When my relationship with somebody is not based on the fact that he or she can make me happy. That's detachment. You're there to give. You're not there to receive. This is non-attachment. And it's not only to beings, it's to things, to objects. And how will we understand non-attachment to things, to people's reactions or words? You think now of a non-stick pan in the kitchen. Let's say you're cooking something, or on Thanksgiving, I'm sure many cooked something, right? How much you put in that non-stick pan? You put some oil and you put some masala, whatever you have, and you put some food to cook. And that non-stick pan takes heat, quite a bit of heat, medium heat, not too high, right? They take heat. They take heat. But after that, you pour the food out and nothing sticks. Sthitaprajna is like that. You can say anything to them, anything can happen to them. They know it's just to the body, mind, and intellect, so nothing sticks. They're again ready. Okay, cook again. Cook again, cook again. They're ever ready. They're like a non-stick pan. Now, what kinds of situations come to them? Shubha and Ashubha. Shubha means auspicious, favorable, what we deem favorable. Ashubha, what we deem unfavorable, inauspicious. These things come. But when they come, na abhinandati, they don't rejoice so much, or they don't hate. They are sthitaprajna. So what is this rejoice and hate? So first we will talk about it in two levels. One is because this being, this enlightened being, does not have attachment towards their body or their mind or intellect. When people say things to them which are favorable, maybe they compliment the sthitaprajna, you're so amazing, you're so wonderful. They don't rejoice, because for them it's the body, the mind, the intellect. Big deal, right? And again, if somebody criticizes them or doesn't treat them well, ashubha, they don't complain, they don't hate, they don't do any of that. If you take somebody like Puja Gurudev, some places he had such a grand reception, right? People would really receive him in such splendor. And there would be a seat ready for him and everything. And that he wasn't like, wow, this is amazing, this and that. Very calm. And in some places, he's greeted by, hi, Swami. No, welcome, no Hari Om, no nothing, just hi, Swami. And they're perfectly calm, perfectly okay. So there's no like, whoa, I should be greeted this way, or I shouldn't be greeted this way. There's no such thing in a sthitaprajna, because it's all coming to this body, mind, and intellect. What's the big deal? But for us, my gosh, if we go to someone's wedding and they didn't put our names on a certain table, we are so upset. How can you put me with this person? And why am I so far from the bride and groom? I thought we were close. We get so incredibly upset. For what? It's this body, mind only. This has nothing to do with us. So that enlightened being is so free, so free. And also, they are not attached to anybody, to anybody. So what happens? Shubha. Shubha is when there are favorable people around, or people who give them things or who treat them nicely. You know, they don't overly praise that person. They don't overly praise that person or overly exaggerate anything. Or when somebody, criticizes them or when something is, some people criticize a certain event or a certain thing that's happening. They just let it go. They leave it. They give praise when it's really important. And they give, what do you call this, a critique when it's really important. But they're not there to always criticize and find faults. One time, Gurudev, somebody wrote him a letter saying that I want to start my own business soon, and I'm seeking your blessings for this business. And he writes to Gurudev. But the letter came without a date. So Gurudev wrote him back, thy blessed self, you are starting your own business soon. I received your undated letter. If you're starting a business, dates are extremely important. Please make sure that you date your letters in the future. So like that they will give, but not this unnecessary critique that we give. Sometimes, how do we handle praise and criticism of others? Sometimes we exaggerate, right? Especially when we want something from somebody, we butter them up. We butter them up, we make them sit, we make them speak, and then we ask them what we want from them. So we tend to speak things which are overly exaggerated, things which are not really true, just to get what we want from that person, right? We do that. There was once a bartender, and people kept coming to his bar, and then this lady came. She must have been in about 45 years or so. He said, "Can I have your ID, please?" And she said, "What, my ID?" And he said, "Yeah, you look so young." And she was so pleased, and she left a really, really big tip for the bartender. And so his friend asked him, "Did you really think she was very young?" He said, "No, I just needed the tip." So we need a tip, right? So this is what we tend to do. We exaggerate our speech sometimes. This doesn't happen in a Sthitaprajna because they really don't want anything from anybody. Then we tend to overly criticize. There are people who find something wrong in everything. In everything they find something wrong. Somebody, has grown prosperous and wealthy. Oh, he just got his dad's money. It's not his work. Somebody, married somebody very beautiful or very handsome. No, they're not from a good family. What are you talking about? Somebody got a very nice house, beautiful, nice, house. No, the colors are very wrong. There's some people who always find fault in people and things. This is not there in the Sthitaprajna. Their speech is not prompted by that. Because they do not have any attachment to their own body. So whether you criticize or praise them, it really doesn't matter. And they themselves do not overly praise or overly criticize anybody, because really they don't want anything from anybody. So they will never overly praise someone because they don't want something from you. And they won't overly criticize everything that's happening because they know that everything is in its place. This is the wisdom with which a Sthitaprajna moves about in the world, completely free. Their speech has satyata. That's why you would see in our Mahatmas, one of Gurudev's names is Satya Sankalpa. When somebody speaks the truth all the time, they have what is called Vak Shakti. When that person has Vak Shakti, when they say something, it will happen. Because that's the power of truth. There is great, great power in truth. So a person who always speaks the truth, they have this Vak Shakti. So sometimes people wonder, how is it that, you know, they said this and all of a sudden it happened? How is it? Because of that only. Once Gurudev was, you know, sitting in some outdoor event and there was a concert there. And he said, this is someday going to be a school. And the theater will be probably in this area. And that's exactly what happened, you know? And when people really look back at that, they're stunned. But it's because they have that. So they operate from a very, very different level. Sometimes for us, it's hard to imagine, you know, that in Kali Yuga, how is it possible? It is highly possible. It's highly possible. Because these traits, these qualities are even seen in advanced seekers. In advanced seekers, we see these traits of being so true, being unattached, of being equanimous. We see those traits. Then one might ask, well, if you see these traits in an advanced seeker, what's the difference between an advanced seeker and a Sthitaprajna? What's the difference? Remember, the difference is, for a Sthitaprajna, it's effortless. It's so natural. It's so natural to be equanimous, steady, unattached. For a seeker, it takes effort. That means it's Sthitaprajna. It's not steady, but it's on the way to becoming steady. And that's the beauty of a seeker. When you go out, let's say you go out for a walk or for a hike and it's fall, and you'll see some trees which are red, yellow, some which are green, you know, and some which they're just all one color. But you will see some trees which are green and red. They're not all green, but they're not all red. But even that tree has beauty. So that seeker who's not there, but not completely there, even that seeker has beauty. Because that seeker is on the way to being there. So therefore, if we are that seeker who's on the way to being there, that is also beautiful. Because the journey will take us exactly where we already actually are. And that's the beauty of the journey. You don't have to move. You just have to be. That is a Sthitaprajna. Okay? So now, how does this Sthitaprajna sit? How does a Sthitaprajna sit? We saw how or by what the Sthitaprajna speech is prompted. How do they sit? We'll go here, verse number 58. Yada samharate chayam.
Yada samharate chayam.
Kurmonganiva sarvashah.
Kurmonganiva sarvashah.
Indriyani indriyarthebhyah.
Indriyani indriyarthebhyah.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Yada samharate chayam. Kurmonganiva sarvashah. Indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. So now, this verse, very, very beautiful. Yada, when, ayam who, this Sthitaprajna, ayam means this who, Sthitaprajna, samharate, when this Sthitaprajna withdraws what? Indriyani, withdraws their sense organs. From where? Indriyarthebhyah, when they withdraw their sense organs from the sense objects, like how kurmonganiva, kurmaha angani iva, like the limbs of a turtle, like how a turtle withdraws its limbs. Sarvashaha, completely withdraws its limbs. Tasya prajna pratishtita, then that being's wisdom is steady. So how do we read this? When, like the tortoise or the turtle, which withdraws on all sides its limbs, he withdraws his sense from the sense objects, then his wisdom becomes steady. So in this verse, what quality are we looking at? The one who has mastery over the senses. This is called a Sthitaprajna. So let's look at this example. Turtle, right? As a turtle. Once when I had gone to someone's home for Bhiksha, the host said to me, she said, can you please explain something to my son from the Gita? I have the Gita book. Please speak to my son about the Gita. He must have been about 7 or 8 years old. So I was thinking, I said, okay, what should I tell him? 700 verses. Which one do I pick? I was thinking, and then I saw that he was wearing these sweatpants, and in the sweatpants there was a turtle there. So I said, okay, yada samharate chayam kurmungani vasarvasha. I said, perfect, I'll explain this verse to you. And so that this verse I explained to him. And so this is about the turtle, kurmaha. Now you look at a turtle. First thing about the turtle, it's ubhayachara. What it means is the turtle has the ability to live on water and on land. It can survive on water and it can survive on land, some turtles. The same way, the Sthitaprajna can survive in vyavahara, in transactional world, and also in samadhi, in their own peace. They can do both. It's not that they're afraid of anything, they can do both. So turtle can live on land and water. A Sthitaprajna can be out in the world and also reveling in their own self. The turtle has the shell to protect the turtle. The jnani or the Sthitaprajna has jnana nishta, their abidance in the self. That is their shell. That's their shell. That's their shell. And what does a turtle do? Turtle has 6 limbs. They have the head sticking out, the tail, and their arms and their legs. 2 arms, 2 legs. So 6 limbs. Jnani also has 5 senses, 5 sense organs. Sense of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. You can also take it as the karmendriyas, the faculty of speaking, grasping, locomotion, excretion, reproduction, and the mind. And this turtle, when this turtle senses danger, what does it do? It withdraws all of its limbs under its shell and stays there. Everything under the shell and stays there because there's danger. Out of fear, it just happens. And all of its limbs, not the sarvashaha, not one limb sticking out, all of its limbs, it withdraws. The jnani, when if the turtle acts out of fear, the jnani withdraws out of love, because they just want to revel in the self. They withdraw, and they withdraw all of their limbs, all of their senses, their mind, and they stay steady and revel in the self. So like a turtle withdraws, also that jnani has the capacity to withdraw. So one place that the jnani will withdraw is in the seat of samadhi. They just want to be, so that their eyes, ears, smell, taste, touch, everything will be withdrawn. All of it, and completely. Sometimes when we sit quietly, sometimes we cannot keep the eyes closed. We'll keep opening it. Or sometimes the ears, we cannot block it out or disengage. We'll keep hearing something. Or sometimes the touch will keep moving because we get cramps in the legs, so we'll keep moving. But this jnani has all of the limbs withdrawn completely when they're sitting in samadhi. At the same time, when they're out in this world, when they're out and about in this world, interacting with many people, interacting in different circumstances, they feel also that there are places where it's not required for them to be. It's not required for them to be around certain people, certain places, certain sounds. So what do they do when that happens? They just withdraw, and that's it. So either they'll still be in that place, but if you look into their eyes, they're just in another world because it's not required for them to be in that particular place or space. They're just in another world. Or either they'll just leave the place because they know it's not required for them to be there. That there's no purpose in that place, in that transaction, in that interaction. There's absolutely no purpose. So they will also withdraw. This is called a Sthitaprajna. They know how to withdraw their senses and mind from things which are not conducive to them. Yes, it is true, they're beyond everything already, but still, for what purpose to engage in things that are so negative, right? So now, how do we take this? How do we take this as a sadhana for ourselves? When we engage in the world, we must engage with moderation and intelligently. So you remember this acronym, EMI. Engage with moderation and intelligently. For a seeker, we have to protect our seeking. It's a must. Don't for 1 minute think that now my mind is Sthitaprajna, I can be anywhere and I should be able to be with anybody. No, we are still babies on the path. Definitely, we are still walking on the path. And therefore, we need to be very selective about what we allow ourselves to see, to hear, to eat, to taste, to touch, to smell. We have to be selective of that because it really taints our mind. You know the effect. You're watching a certain type of movie and how it stays in your mind. Or you hear something about somebody that you didn't want to hear, how it stays in your mind. There are people who watch news right before going to sleep. Then they expect to sleep peacefully. Obviously, that's not going to happen, right? So whatever we do or whatever we put ourselves around, that is going to form the quality and the texture of our mind. It is. So for a seeker, We must see in those situations which we should not be in, avoid those situations which can disturb, which can create temptation, which can make a certain vasana erupt. Avoid that altogether. There's no need to go there. If we cannot avoid it, then we have to be the ones to change it. On Thanksgiving Day, I went to my parents' home, and while we were waiting for dinner to get to ready, there were many options about what to do. So some were like, let's watch a movie, let's do this, let's do that. I was like, we're gonna do Ramayana. Come, let's sit. Let's sit and let's do Ramayana, and let's do this particular verse. And I didn't know how that was gonna fly, but it flew. Thank God it flew. But I'm just saying, I did not want that in my mind, right? I did not want certain things in the mind, because my mind is in God. Like, I just wanted to be in God. I'm very happy with that. Like, I don't want to think about all the other stuff. So I'm just saying, sometimes we can't avoid. We have to be where we have to be. But in those places, you're the one coming to Gita class. So you're the seeker. So you have to change it. You have to change the environment. So that is what we need to do. Just selectively engage, or engage intelligently. Pick what we're engaging in. And not only that, you say, okay, I'm selectively engaging, I'm engaging in good things. That in moderation, that's the next step then, right? If you see animals, they're so beautiful because they don't overeat. When they're hungry, they just leave the food, they let it go. But when we are, even if we're full, we'll still eat, right? I'm sure it's very hard to be like a turtle at Thanksgiving time, holiday time, families all over the place, right? Everybody's together. It's very hard to moderate, but that is also required, because that keeps the mind, that keeps your whole system healthy. It keeps everything healthy. The minute we engage in anything too much, the whole system shuts down. Then, so engage in moderation and intelligently, but also it has to happen with all senses. Some people are very good with the sense of sight. Okay, see only those things which will help me out. But with hearing is a whole other story. Right? Or some people are good with this sense of sight and hearing. Okay, but with taste is a whole different story. Cannot control. Or some people, okay, they can control sense of sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, but touch you cannot control. Every 2 minutes, 5 minutes, checking the phone, checking this, checking that. You're not that important. The whole world will go on without you. It's okay. Just be. Just be. So this kind of thing is what we can really learn from Sthitaprajna. How at the seat of meditation, they really are able to just withdraw everything and go within. And how even in Vyavahara, outside in the world, if there is something that's not conducive to them, they withdraw. You will find many of our Mahatmas, they'll just space out. If there's something they don't want, they'll just space out, because their mind is really somewhere else. So we should not and cannot bring them to this level. Okay, now the question comes, okay, but my senses are all, I'm able to withdraw them, but I'm only able to do it for some time. for some time. After that, out again, like some people when they fast. Okay, I can fast on Monday, but Tuesday, I just want to eat like crazy. Or some people during the pandemic, okay, we have to stay inside the house. Okay, fine, quarantine, fine. After quarantine, wow, going out like crazy, going here, there, everywhere, exploring everything. So there's this sudden outburst, right? So what do you do? So with some people, yes, they can withdraw for a certain time, but after that, they go wild. Why does that happen? And how are we able to withdraw and just really withdraw? What is the trick? So he says it in the next verse. 59. Vishaya vinivartante
Vishaya vinivartante
niraharasya dehinaha
niraharasya dehinaha
rasavarjam rasopyasya
rasavarjam rasopyasya
param drishtva nivartate
param drishtva nivartate
Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. This is another beautiful verse. I'm just going to give the very brief meaning today, but next week we'll really go into this verse. Vishayaha means the sense objects. Vinivartante, they turn away. They turn away from who? Niraharasya dehinaha. They turn away from one who abstains from them. Niraharasya, the one who abstains from it, dehinaha, that being who abstains from it. Rasavarja. But the thing is, they leave the longing. Rasavarjam, they leave the longing. How does the longing go or the taste go? Rasaha api asya, the taste of that being goes only param drishtva nivartate, when they see the Supreme. So the meaning here is the objects of the senses turn away from the abstinent man, leaving the longing behind. But his longing also turns away on seeing the Supreme. So the answer to that question is why are we only able to withdraw for some time and then again we're back out? It's because the longing is still there. The rasa means the craving, that longing, the taste for that object is still there. So we're not able to withdraw for a long time. We will go out wild and crazy again. But for the Sthitaprajna, when they withdraw, even that taste has gone, even that craving has gone, that vasana has gone. So there is no push to go out anymore. How has that craving gone? How has that vasana gone? Param drishtva, they have realized the truth. And upon realizing the truth, why would anyone even want to go back out? And when I say go back out, means run after this world of paltry pleasure again. So for the Sthitaprajna, even the taste has gone. Sometimes, or could have happened in Thanksgiving dinner, there is a laddu, cake, all these kinds of food. And you're like, nope, I shouldn't take it. So you don't take the cake. But in your mind, how does that cake taste? Everyone's eating that cake. Everyone's enjoying that cake. But you're like, no, I won't take it. But I'll take it home. So that's what happens, isn't it? But for the Sthitaprajna, even that taste is gone. That's a very beautiful state to be in. So more on this verse we will take up next week. I'll just summarize a few pointers and then we will close. And those who have questions can stay back. So today we saw, two very beautiful verses. We saw verses 57 and 58. 57 says that the Sthitaprajna, this being, enlightened being, it is not attached. Like a non-stick pan, nothing sticks to them. They're not attached. So therefore, if anybody praises or criticizes them, anything good or bad happens to them, they're not worried about it. They themselves don't praise or criticize also other people because they don't praise unnecessarily, out of exaggeration. They don't do that kind of praise, nor do they criticize unnecessarily or find fault unnecessarily because they're absolutely not attached. So when we speak about speech, it's really what prompts their speech. So a person always speaking from detachment, what's their only concern? Their concern is not what you can give them or how you can make them happy or what can you do for them. That's not their concern. Their concern is only how will this person evolve? How will this person grow? How can I help? And that is reflected in their speech. And it's very beautiful that here it's what prompts their speech, not their speech per se. And I'll tell you why. You see, jnanis, sthitaprajnas, we can understand that. Sometimes, Gurudev, for a very small child would give him like a chocolate or something. And he would say, oh, wow, I really love this chocolate. It's my favorite flavor. So at that time, you can't say, wow, Gurudev has raga, attachment to the chocolate. No, it's because it's a different bond. It's a different relationship. So you cannot outwardly judge this jnani by speech. We must see what's prompting that speech. And that's why there's a subtler way to look at it. When we study the Gita, you cannot just take it just as you read it. You have to go deeper in the verse. That's the only way you really get what it's saying. The next verse, we saw the beautiful example of the tortoise or turtle. And we saw here then the quality is being able to master their senses, withdraw their senses inward. And how that relates to our lives is that we should also know how to engage in moderation and intelligently in the world, because we have to protect our seeking, because it can affect our mind. When we are at a higher level, then we would have that ability to change the whole environment or even space out or get into a different state. But where we are, we must protect our seeking. And sometimes we do have the capacity to withdraw our senses, but the taste still remains. Why? Because that vasana is so strong. When will it go? When the truth is realized. That's when it will go. Okay? All right, so today we'll stop here. Say a closing prayer. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.